Here again with another Walking Dead Dead City episode review video, as I was able to watch the episode early on the Amazon Prime AMC channel. But before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you weren't caught up to the point where I am in rewatching or watching the Walking Dead Dead City, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further to avoid any potential spoilers, and let me know what you think in the comments section and subscribe to the channel. This will be The Walking Dead Dead City Season 1, Episode 3. The title of this episode is called People Are a Resource. And this will be my review, reaction, recap after just finishing watching the episode. Ginny is walking through the woods, and there's a walker hanging off of a tree branch with the tree branch all the way through it, but Negan kills it. As it's a flashback, we've got to talk. Scratch that, you've got to talk, because obviously Ginny doesn't say much, or doesn't say anything at all. I sense she will at some point. All he's been doing is trying to do is find a safe place for her. She's out there because she lost something. And then we go to present time. Ginny did indeed leave the New Babylon, or Hilltop 2, and is paddling across the lake to Manhattan. Amaya, Tommaso, Luther, Negan, and Maggie, I think more of them, end up killing a deer so they have food. They've been at it for a while, Luther, Tommaso, and Amaya's group. And they were waiting for the army to save them, but they ended up blowing up the bridges and tunnel like Marshall Armstrong had mentioned. The Croat wants to kill them, they're talking about the Croat, and only one of them got out alive when the Croat got him. And that we'll find out later in the episode. Maggie gets bothered by this and walks away. And Negan says she's tougher than she looks. And we find out that Tommaso is the one that got away from the Croat. So he was essentially going to die, but he was able to get away and get back to his people. And then Negan mentions years ago someone built a badass fortress, had an army of psychopaths, and then soon enough, people got sick of him and wanted to take the hammer back. So he's talking about himself and Rick's group essentially taking out Negan and putting him in the jail cell. And Luther asks what happened, and Maggie says it worked. Percy Armstrong is taken to an arena, and the Croat says, "Welcome!" Maggie tells the others, Negan, he knew the Croat. An eye for an eye and a dick for an ear. So they want to kill the Croat, and they think that showing Negan will make the Croat not kill him right away because he'll want revenge. And Luther says, "You're going to get us killed for what?" And Maggie says, "My son." Luther says, "Your son is already dead." Ooh, strong words. And Marshall Armstrong is handcuffed in a suit at the arena, or the octagon, so to speak, and we'll get more on that later. And the Croat calls it a jail. Well, it's a pretty nice jail, actually. The Croat says, "What we had built here is a sanctuary. Why are you here, and who did you bring with you?" the Croat asks Marshall Percy Armstrong. "In this vicious world, we must stay safe." And then there's like a worm in the Croat's meal that he has. So he makes his butler, I don't know what his name is, but the butler type character, swallow a key, and then bashes his head on the rail a few times, and then tosses him over into the arena area. Maggie's looking at some old pictures that she's managed to save. It's like in a little box in her backpack. There's pictures of her family. There's a picture of her and her dad, Herschel, and I think a picture of Enid and a very young Herschel. I'm not 100% sure that was Enid, but I think it was. Also has the pocket watch that her dad, Herschel, had given to Glenn in Season 2 of The Walking Dead. I think it was Season 2. And then she also has a portrait of Glenn, like a picture of Glenn, but not a photograph, but a drawing of Glenn that looks just like him in there. So very, Maggie's really into this moment. And Negan says, "Sorry to interrupt," from her looking at her stuff. Negan says Luther's wrong and her plan is going to work. He's willing to listen as, contrary to popular belief, he does know how to shut up. So Maggie tells Negan the story about the Croat getting Herschel and the last words that she was able to say him, at least for now. We know that the Croat isn't going to kill Herschel. That would be crazy if he did. And then Negan says Annie had been robbed a few years back. Like, she went on a run and she got robbed by 5 guys, and Negan went after them, and he honestly didn't even want to kill them, but I believe he did. And then after that, Annie wasn't really right. So what Negan did is he put Annie and his son Joshua on a wagon train to Missouri, and he said he'd be right behind him, but he never was. So we're led to believe that Annie and Negan's real legitimate son is still alive. But I sense maybe Negan's not telling the truth there and that Annie is really dead. I don't know for sure, but I feel like he was a little bit more saddened by that when he was saying it. Like, he was having a hard time getting the words out at a certain point there. So that's just my opinion on it. And Maggie, to kind of lighten the mood, says, I thought you knew how to shut up. Like, he started talking anyway. And then we go to Ginny running through the streets of Manhattan. There's walkers all over the place. They're grabbing at her. They grab her and she gets away. And then back to the flashback of Negan and Ginny looking for Ginny's dinosaur. And Negan says you've skipped all the you need to skip all the coping shit and skip to the staying alive shit. You know, there's no doctor around to talk to about what's happened with her father dying. And Negan says the problem is we don't have any leads. And then we go back to present time as Ginny was kind of grabbed by a walker and pulled to the ground. She was able to get away, but her dinosaur fell out and she left it there. And then somebody walks by, we don't know who this person is, and picks up the dinosaur, the stuffed animal dinosaur, obviously, and walks away. And Ginny is following that person that has it. That's something with that dinosaur that she really likes. And then everyone is sitting around a table, and they're like pulling possessions out, like a lighter, a necklace. I can't remember what Luther had. And they're putting it on the table, and like Luther's humming. It must be some kind of like, you know, tribute to the dead that have died or something like that. And then the Croat, back to him, says, we are home. People are a resource. The people cheer at the arena. And then back to Negan, Maggie, and company. Now they eat. So they're eating after, you know, the little tribute to the dead or whatever it was. And I didn't watch the bonus scene or the bonus stuff after the episode, and that might explain that more, but I didn't have time. And then the Croat and his goons put a gas mask on Percy Armstrong for a few, like 30 seconds or less. That's supposed to, I think, like some kind of, maybe to make him a little bit loopy or something like that. And I believe the gas mask is like attached to a walker in water or something like that. I don't know this for sure. And then he's put into this MMA cage, or as I like to call it, the octagon. And then I can hear Bruce Buffer go, it's time! And then they put a walker in there with Percy Armstrong, and somebody says, let's begin. And Percy's actually handcuffed. He has handcuffs around his arms, and then he's around a pole. So all he can do is go like that. But Percy Armstrong is still able to get a walker in between that and then decapitate the walker's head. And it's actually that butler guy that the Croat had tossed over the rail. And then what Percy Armstrong does is cuts open his body, goes into his stomach, and grabs the handcuffed key. I think it was a key, or maybe it's something to get the handcuffs off. But regardless of that, he's able to get the handcuffs off with that. And then more walkers are led into this MMA cage, or octagon, whatever you want to call it. And Marshall Armstrong, Percy, whatever you want to call him, takes his boot off. And then he's able to kill the walkers with his boot. Tommaso says he doesn't know what to say, but he's shitting more bricks than what they have left in the city to Maggie. Having a kid in the city isn't safe, according to what Amaya says. And then the person that found the dinosaur actually arrives, and they're a part of Tommaso and Amaya's group. And Maggie asks, where did you get that and when? And they're like, I just got it, today. And then she's like, hey, you want it? And she gives it to Maggie. And then the Croat tells, you know, Percy Armstrong, you put on quite a show. That's the best show I've ever seen. And then he talks about his family to him. He says that him and his family were starving, so he went to look for food. My family, my wife, Mia, my daughter Nika, and my son Philip had become a meal for another starving family. And he was too distraught to kill himself. And then he found a man in a group that would teach him, you know, to help him. Obviously, he's talking about the saviors in Negan. And then the Croat reads the letter. Well, he finds the letter that Percy Armstrong's been holding on to from his brother, and he reads it. And then Percy Armstrong says, "Stop. I'm alone. I had 2 partners, but they're dead. We came here to get a wanted man home." And the Croat says, "Who is worth following here?" And Percy Armstrong says, "His name is Negan." Ooh. And then back to Negan. He's going through the kitchen area, and then Luther shows up. "Damn, for a big guy, you sure are quiet." He says that we are on the same side. And then Luther actually has the wanted poster of Negan and reads it and says, like he got it off him. And then he wants Negan to leave tonight. And Negan says he's not going anywhere. And then Negan tries to hit Luther with a pan. And then Luther grabs him in a bear hug. But Negan uses this cheese grater that he was holding on to and slices Luther like right up here. And then Luther, you know, kind of lets go. And then he stands there. Then he falls back. And his head lands on something that goes through it on the ground. So Negan, you know, Luther's still kind of moving on the ground, but obviously he's not in good shape. And then Negan pushes his head a little bit towards it, and then Luther is dead. God damn it, I wanted Luther to survive. I thought he could have been a really interesting character. And then back to the flashback stuff. The dinosaur that Ginny was looking for was actually in the bag the whole time. I think this is a ploy by Negan to get her to talk, and she didn't. And there's like the stuffiness coming out of it, so Negan wraps it up. And then Negan tells Ginny to whistle if she's in trouble, and she can do that. And Ginny then hugs Negan. It doesn't matter what people say, it only matters what they do. And then Maggie is actually thinking about lighting the dinosaur on fire as she's standing there with a match as Ginny watches from behind a car. And this is what ends the episode of The Walking Dead, Dead City, season 1, episode 3. So pretty good stuff. Really entertaining episode. And I'm going, actually the last episode, I only gave it like an 8.7 out of 10. The last episode was a 10 out of 10 as well. I don't know what I was thinking. This episode, I mean, I have to give it a 10 out of 10. The show is so good. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Walking Dead fanatic. I really like Dead City. It's really interesting. And I thought the best stuff from The Walking Dead season 11 was the Maggie and Negan stuff. And this just amplifies it. So I really liked it. The part with Maggie looking through the stuff that she saved, the picture of Glenn, it was hard to hold back tears during that moment. So I'm going to give this episode a 10 out of 10. So far, Dead City's been amazing. Characters of the episode, I mean, there was really good performances all around. You had the minor characters that showed what they can do, like Tomasa and Amaya in this episode. You had the Croat doing really good. But the 3 main characters in this episode that did really good were Maggie, Negan, and Percy Armstrong. So either one of those 3, take your pick. I know I gave Negan the character of the episode the last time, and honestly, it's either probably Percy Armstrong or Maggie in this one, even though Negan was a really big focal point. And even Ginny did really good too. So awesome episode. Really liked it. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead, Dead City, or anything regarding The Walking Dead and want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, since I love covering The Walking Dead, make sure that you Hulk smash that like button, share the video with anybody you know, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of The Walking Dead, Dead City. What would you rate the episode? And if you had to choose, who would be your character of the episode? It's a tough one to choose from. Any other comments that you want to leave, anything you want to talk about, just make sure you leave those in the comment section. I'm going to put my review to The Walking Dead series finale right here. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel. You're watching the video anyway. Join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.